happening in the last 18 years. This covers 18 years of history, right, in 60 seconds. And what it shows is that the tech companies which were either not even like on the radar, were not available, suddenly like in 2018, companies like Apple, Google, and Amazon has conquered the top four slots, which were like conquered by, which were like occupied by companies like Coke, which was on the top for a very long time. GE, these were the most valuable companies. Now look at them, that these are tech companies. And within these tech companies also, what we see is that these are companies, maybe you say they are innovators, all that is fine, I agree with you. But there is one common thread among these companies. They are very good users, or they are on the cutting edge of AI. They use a lot of AI, right? So that is something that is very, very important, right? Amazon has grown fast like anything. HP is knocked off the list, and you don't hear a lot of HP when it comes to AI, isn't it? So that's like what has been happening. Nokia, GE, Cisco, they have, though like if you look at Cisco, Cisco is a very nice company when it comes to technology, but nowhere seen now, right? Because AI is a common thread, as I said. So that is one thing that's very, very important. So innovation, AI, these are the two buzzwords. So the good news is that if you want to work in this area, or you want to have your own startup, who knows? I mean, you could rule this world in the next decade or so, right? And the startups, I mean, really flourish very fast these days, right? So now coming to fintechs, what does a fintech mean? So fintech, I've taken these definitions, which I understand would be like conveying the meaning. Now, what I'm not trying to tell you is that these are the final definitions. There are a lot of definitions which float around, but I've taken a simple thing which will make sense and help you understand what this area is. So fintech refers to a scope of financial services, right, that can be available on any digital platform. So this is finance follows by technology. So anything that can be done through a digital platform is a fintech, right? Why is this important? Because this is a new disruption in banking and financial sector services, and it has a wide-ranging impact. So we'll discuss this impact part. How is the wide-ranging impact? What's going to happen? Why is it so important? And if you want to understand, like let's say if you want to understand some of the examples, like what are the examples, if you want to understand that could be like categorized as fintechs. So the first one is peer-to-peer lending. So what are P2P lending platforms? A very interesting thing. Let somebody, there would be a company which would be a fintech, will start a platform, right? And then what will happen is it will invite people who are ready to lend some money, who have a surplus. So there would be a group of people who will say that we have a surplus money and we are ready to, let's say, put it into lending. There would be a group of people who want to take loans as quickly as possible. Banks may not be giving them loan because they do not have a very good credit history. You know that a CIBIL score of 750 or more is very, very important if you want to take a loan. If your CIBIL score is less than 750, then chances are that you will not get a loan. So, and what does this intermediary company do, the P2P company do? It will do something known as a credit scoring. It will find out how risky the customer is. So it will divide the customer into different risk categories. Example, A could be the least risky. And let's say if you're dividing into 5, E could be the most risky. So when you are lending, you will see the risk categorization of the customer. How much amount does he require? For how much time does he require? And accordingly, you will get the returns, that this is the kind of return that you can, this is the rate of interest that is proposed. Generally, the rate of interest are very high. That is why like P2P people have come to these platforms, and whatever like extra money they have, they start lending it. But let me tell you one thing, there are no clear guidelines from RBI on P2P lending, right? So that means RBI is the apex body which governs every financial institution in this country. So what it means is neither does RBI say that they are safe and you should go ahead, neither does it say that you should not do it. What we have heard is that probably in the next couple of months, RBI is going to come around with a definitive set of P2P lending. So P2P lending is going to take off. Earlier, it was considered to be a risky thing. And this is a very common thing. When you look at China, when you look at US, there are a lot of P2P companies. So if you compare like how China is like leading the way. So if you look at the Chinese P2P and fintech, To just understand the volumes, you can understand it this way. If China is doing X, this is equal to 3 times of India, US, and Europe put together. That's the kind of, let's say, innovation and evolved their fintech is, right? And you can understand why that is the way, because they are also leading in AI and machine learning. So it has a direct impact on the fintech. Then second are wallet and payment companies. All of you use it someday or the other, like PayU, that is from Citrus. Uh, then you have Paytm, which is a wallet and payment also, because you pay so many, you can pay so many bills, airlines, and so many things, right? Then personal finance companies, where you can buy mutual funds digitally, right? You can invest in other investments which are available to customers directly, individual customers. The last chunk is SME lending, which is the largest among them. What is the SME? So let me, because for everybody, this is small and medium enterprise. So these are small businesses. When I say small businesses, generally people who will be doing a turnover of less than 2 crores a year, those kind of people. Now the problem with these people is that banks may not give them loan. So if they approach a bank, the bank may not give them a loan. Now, how big is this opportunity? So the problem is bank will not give them a loan, and the traditional method, you cannot grant them loan. And plus they are going to be the next wave for India's economy, right? If they grow, they'll provide lot of opportunities. Yesterday there was an article in Business Standard, if you would have read. Uh, it said that MSME means micro and small medium enterprises, together have provided 64 lakh new jobs in India. Now 64 lakhs is a big number that they have added alone, the MSME sector. And the bigger companies are separate, but this is what they have done. So think of these 64 lakh people and their salaries, isn't it? So where does this salary come from? One, they generate revenues from business. This is one. The second thing is, when they are new, they may not be able to generate all the revenue that is required. So how do you get that revenue? You get it from funding, right? So a lot of funding is required. So funding is an important issue, right? So now moving on. So this is what I just tried to define you what fintechs are. Now let us understand what would be the future of fintechs, because when we started, we said it is a gold mine. So let us try and evaluate where is fintech. I mean, people who are from marketing will try to understand it from a perspective whether it is in a growth stage or is it in a maturity stage. If it is in a maturity stage, then probably things are not going to grow further. So how good it would be, how good a decision it would be to get into this area for a career. So there are some factors which are responsible for the growth, right? You can see, though these numbers, maybe you may say 2015 is a bit older number, but these were authentic numbers. I did not have numbers which I could say are authentic and beyond, like let's say 2015. But this is growing at this rate. In 2016, 17, and 18 also, it has almost grown if you look at a CAGR, it has grown at a rate of 22%. So that's a very good growth rate. You can see that this internet users have been growing at this rate. So and of course, ultimate stage would be that everybody will have an internet, right? So having an internet is the most important thing for fintechs to grow, right? So one parameter is the internet growth. The second thing is, if you look at the investments for any area to grow, it's very important that lot of investment is actually attracted in that area. So what has happened to the investment? You can look at it, right? There is a huge investment that has gone into investment in India. Look at the right side, that would be more important. And if you look at the left hand side, that is also very important. Can you look at the 2015 $19.1 billion, and India is $450 million. So that means India still has a lot of scope, because India is a very large country, isn't it? So if you divide 450 million by 19.1, it's peanuts in terms of percentages, isn't it? And by population, we are very big, isn't it? So there is a huge growth. So the point that I'm trying to drive through, and the next thing, above all, our population. We are a huge populous country, and in the area of finance and SMEs, in personal investment, all these things definitely depend on the population size. That is like very important. The population size becomes utmost important if you look at all this, right? So the point, so from all these slides, what we conclude is there is a huge potential. So any people who are trying to get into this would be a very good idea of getting into it. And this is going to rule India for the last at least 10, 15 years to come. So if you look at fintechs, then these are two kinds. One are fintech fins and the other ones are known as fintech techs. Fintech fins are those companies which are traditionally more like, here we have this thing like fintech fins are what P2P marketplace, right? And here you can see their business model. Then online lending is one example. There are only few examples. This is not an exhaustive list. And fintech fins are generally those companies which do not do lending or which do not actually do a money transaction on their platform. What they do is they enable other fintech fins to do their services. So examples are credit scoring. Credit scoring is a big area now, right? So if you understand credit scoring, there are a lot of companies which may be ready to take you, right? If you learn this, and that's not very difficult to learn. But the only thing is when you go to these, probably I've seen some training institutes which take up some data sets here and there and try to teach credit scoring. I tell you, those data sets are very, very simple. And that kind of a training, that's not how credit scoring is done in reality, right? So that is just one caveat. So, and there are a lot of YouTube videos also available and all those things, but the credit scoring has moved beyond the methods that are shown. It doesn't work this way, right? So that is very important to understand. Now, if you look, why is AI, ML, and technology becoming so important? So to understand that, we have to look at the new trend. So look at the first trend. So people, now companies are granting a loan, and that too like without a collateral, right? So there is no collateral that is being given. Now think about it. I am giving you a loan and not asking for any kind of a collateral. I'm not asking you to give me anything like a security. So then what about risk? What about the default? What about the fraud chances, right? These are all increasing. So, and if you are giving a loan without collaterals, there are two advantages. One, the process becomes very fast. So look at a traditional bank. A bank was giving a loan in almost like a month. Then they reduced it to around 3 weeks. NBFCs, which are like non-banking financial corporations, they can grant a loan in 2 weeks. But people are not satisfied with that. They want a loan in hours. So if you want a collateral, then giving a loan or disbursing a loan in hours is not going to be feasible, whatever you do, right? So if you want to actually disburse loans digitally, then loan without collaterals is the only way forward. But if you do that, there is another side to it. The risk is going to increase. Defaults, people may think of not returning it. Why not take a chance, right? Frauds may increase, right? Somebody may pose with a different kind of profile altogether, fabricated documents. Take a loan and you may not be able to trace that person. Where did he go or who he was at all, right? The second thing is, if you look at the new generations which is coming, they're lazy even at typing, right? They don't want to type, and they'll say, okay, okay, you are giving me a digital, let's say, kind of a form to fill, which is very concise, what I think, but maybe I cannot fill these 50 data points. This is too long to type. So then, can you give us a facility where we can fill a form through voice commands only? Voice commands is good, but think of India, how many vernacular languages we have. English is something which is sorted out, but how many people who will take a loan will actually be interacting in English, right? That's one question. Even if, let's say, okay, we'll target Hindi, which is 70% of the people in India will speak in Hindi, but then think about the accents. Think about any states and in the number of accents that are possible out there, right? So again, a problem. So for this example, you can look at this company, thatneedle.com. This company is trying to work in this area that I've been talking, and they are trying to bring a solution to this, right? So thatneedle.com. So these kind of companies are springing up, right? Because they are new trends, new requirements. Think of one more problem. Like there is a call center which is attached to a bank, either that is their own call center or it's an outsourced kind of a call center, right? The thousands of people who are working there, isn't it? A lot of people making calls in and out. There are a lot of customers who are calling in for different reasons about asking the statuses for loans, or there's so many reasons why people will call, and these people are also calling. Now you like to keep in a month, probably if you look at it, a big NBFC, there are millions of calls that happen, inbound plus outbound. Now you like to keep a tab on the quality of discussions that are happening. And going through the earlier method, if you remember, call centers there was a quality assurance, and they'll listen to some of the samples. But in a million, how many will you listen? Think about it. It's just not possible. So a better way is, can we like convert this voice into text? Now again, think of people speaking in different languages. Can we like convert it into text? Analyze for things like sentiments, emotions, some abused words and all those things. And once you detect that, can you straight away direct me to the portion of the discussion where this was happening, right? So you integrate it back. In the text, I detect abuse, and immediately a time is populated that the abused word has been used at 2 minutes 13 seconds. So I go to 2 minutes 13 seconds and I actually hear abused word there, and whoever is responsible for it, you take an action, right? So there are lots and lots of new trends which are happening. Okay, so I'm discussing some of it because that's a limited thing. Coming to the main thing, so this is like fintech requiring so many things. So it's about finance happening on digitally, anything that you can imagine, insurances, whatever like comes into your imagination, like a Paisa Bazaar, Bank Bazaar, those also come in the purview of fintechs, right? And so many business models which are springing up, unthinkable. Lot of funding going on. The maximum funding has happened in the fintech area, and they have a good ability to pay to people, provided that these people are well trained and know the trade. Freshers are not welcome because whatever transactions happen here are probably very, very sensitive. So something happens, I mean, there is a big loss. There is a financial loss which can be directly attributed, right? But there is a lot of let's say incentive, I'll say, for people who are well trained, right? Now coming to the specific area, which is machine learning into fintechs, and that is what like our main talk is around. So specifically focusing on it. So there are topics which are traditional. So you may say that customer analytics, I mean, what's so great about it, right? This is some area which is applicable everywhere. So it is applicable to finance also, because we have customers there, so we need customer analytics. So the kind of things that happen there, to just give you an idea, that these are the kind of applications that happen. I'm talking at the application level only because that's what I can do in the time allotted. So lead scoring. So the very important thing is, there are so many people, there are so many leads which come. There is a huge demand for money, right? Just to give you an idea, if India is able to fulfill all its loan demand that is coming from SME, that opportunity is around $10 trillion. Now, how do you compare it? How big or small it is? If I say it is very big, probably you may think how big. Just to give an idea, Indian GDP is $3 trillion, and India is the fourth largest GDP in the world. And we are talking of an opportunity of $10 trillion. If we can actually do something about this particular opportunity, then we'll add, let's say we'll not add 10 trillions. You may say, okay, there may be some exaggeration, something. But believe me, even if we add 4 trillion, our economy becomes more than double just by catering to loans. And you can understand the potential there. So what I'm trying to say is, there are a lot of fintechs which are coming, but the number of fintechs that have already come are not sufficient to meet the current requirement. We need to at least make these fintech 10 times. So that is the kind of opportunity that is available there. So lead scoring. So as soon as like some company says that, okay, we are providing loans, believe me, initially the number of leads is very low, but after 6 months or let's say a year, you'll see a lot of people applying for loans, and this runs into thousands. You cannot go through all these leads manually and decide that what is going to happen. So some kind of automated machine learning AI-based system should be there, where you can find out that these are the serious ones. Let's try and contact them. Then the issue would be that some people have already taken a loan, but generally when a new customer comes, a way to hedge the risk is that the company starts with a smaller ticket size. So they grant a very small amount of loan. They don't grant a large size of a loan there, right? So after some time, you'll have people who have you have granted some small loans. So what you like to do, you like to progress with them. You like to increase the ticket size or something. So then the question is, whom do we, let's say, give a bigger size loan? So how do we identify that these are the people where we can give a higher size loan, right? The ticket size can increase. The third is a very interesting kind of a thing, which is what we do is that these NBFCs are now tying up with mobile companies, right? The telecom companies. I mean, if you look at telecom companies in India, there are 2, 3 leading companies only now. You know it, right? The 3 companies between them will account for more than what 85–90% of the customers. Now, what they are doing is that they are building kind of graphs and networks. So, if a customer has taken a loan, they will try and find out who are the people who this person, the person who is the customer, interacts a lot, right? And based on that, it will make a graph, and the graph connections will show the weight. The more a person interacts with the other person, the strength of the graph will be higher. Now, what is the advantage if you look at it? Over 5 years, people who have defaulted will know their networks also. So who are the people who are connected to a defaulter? So when a next time, if somebody from the network of a defaulter comes and applies for a loan, the AI or the ML system will automatically detect that, hey, there is a person who is trying to apply from already defaulter customers network. Now, this is a big advantage. If you can detect that, believe me, these people are at least 4 times riskier than the normal customer. So you are able to cut on your risky customer. So building graphs. So these are all innovative kind of things. I'm just putting few things out here just to show you how like things are working out there. So this is one. Now, so what I'm trying to say is there is this, whatever I discussed at the last slide, the point that I was trying to bring out is there was a traditional method of doing things. So earlier banks were asking for a lot of financial documents. Many of you would have been students or are students, I don't know, but would have gone or maybe like availing education loan, and you'll know how the process is, right? They'll require some guarantor and so many things. Right? So that's a traditional method. Collaterals, asking for documents, asking for papers kind of thing and bringing it. The newer method is something known as alternate data scoring. So even if you do not have a credit score, you don't have a bureau presence because you may not have ever taken a loan. Can I understand what kind of a customer you are? Now that's the new way of doing things. So that alternate data scoring means that I can utilize your marketing behavior, your payment gateway data. I can analyze your health records. I can analyze your utility bills. Talk of anything where you interacted with and you created data digitally. I like to have access to that data, process it, and understand how good would you be if I grant you a loan, right? So that method, so this kind of approach, this kind of method is known as alternate data scoring. And this is like a movement, right? This is a big thing. Some companies have made fortunes out of it. Just to give you an example, there is a company which grants you loan just by reading your SMSs, right? It analyzes your SMSs and just based on that, it grants you a loan. I'll not name the company here, but I'll just give you an idea the kind of faith that investors have shown in this company. This company has been given an investment of dollars. It is dollars, not rupees, right? Dollars 27 million or 2.7 crore dollars, right? And that will roughly translate into 150 crore rupees, right? Just using SMSs and granting out loans, right? That's all. So so I'm talking of opportunities, methods, innovations, right? So if you look at traditional, so now talking about what are traditional data sources, because I just mentioned it, so let me clarify. So traditional data sources are bank statements, bureau data. There are four bureaus in India: CIBIL, Equifax, Experian, and CRIF, right? And anybody in this country who is giving you a loan has to report this data to the 4 bureaus. Now RBI has come with a regulation now that earlier it was a choice that you could report it to only one bureau, but now RBI last 2 months back has come out with an order, and it has said that everybody is to report the data to all the 4 bureaus. So all the four bureaus know what is happening. Or if you access any of the bureau, you will come to know a customer's history. Then company balance sheets, right? For a profit and loss statements, balance sheets, IT returns. Businesses are supposed to file IT returns. So these were the traditional data sources, right? Now, what has changed? Alternate data scoring, right? So I told you it's a godly activity, I will say. Uh, and any company who actually masters it, companies have started, it's in a nascent stage. So it's just 1 year old, 1.5 year old kind of a thing. So if you ask me, 1.5 year is a very small duration. Things cannot be mastered in this time. So companies have started doing it. So any company which will be able to master this definitely will be a very large company, will be a very large valuation. And that valuation game you can see in the PPT that I'll send. Google is one of the most valued companies now, so valuation becomes very, very important. Then there are some challenges on the data side. When you try to do alternate data scoring, there will be challenges of small data. I mean, you talk of big data, that is there, but there is a challenge of small data also, because if you are giving large ticket size loans, you can understand the number of customers will not be very, very high. So you should know how to handle the small data. Big data, handling a big data is infrastructure intensive kind of activity. From a modeling perspective, it is easy, but handling a small data, you don't require an infrastructure, but it is a very, very modeling intensive activity. How do you guarantee your results? That's the biggest challenge, right? So, and the data is unbalanced, not everybody is a cheat, provided 94% people like to return their loan. It's only 6% who are problematic. So by nature, when we are talking about this, and they are very less good customers, and there are many people who just try for the sake of trying. So anything that you try, you'll see there is an unbalanced data, right? Example, good customers versus bad customer, eligible customer versus non-eligible customer. So all this is unbalanced data. How do we handle that, right? So that is the problem, because your classifiers will have a problem. Just to give you an idea, because we're not discussing at algorithm level, right? And also understand, data is the new oil. This all of you would have heard. But the second part to it, oil will exhaust, but data will not, right? Oil is, some people say after 20 years or 30 years, whatever the deadline is, the oil is going to exhaust. We will completely consume the available oil, but data will not be exhausted, right? So that is why, and companies are becoming more and more dependent on data. Right now we are discussing about fintechs. They are becoming very, very dependent on data, right? So these are the kind of situations, as if you get into a data scientist, become a data scientist in these areas, then probably you like to imagine a day in a data scientist life, right? So what are the kind of things that the data scientist is thinking of? What is he working on? So the first would be, how do you get inferences from telecom data, payment data, travel data, combine all this and make a common understanding of things, right? So this is all disparate data coming from very different sources. Now, the second could be, imagine of there you have connected to 100 data provider, 100 companies that are providing different kind of data, the telecom, this and that, and all these data, some are providing you too many variables, some have like very small number of variables. How do you handle all this, right? How do you handle and bring it to some useful application, right? Think about it. This is what a data scientist in fintech is doing. And I discussed about it. Imagine of a generation which is not ready to type, right? So voice is going to be the new frontier, and people have started heavily investing time and energy in voice. So any company, believe me, any AI company which is working on voice right now or is in an advanced stage would be a company that would be good for watching out. The other important issue is customer. The customer wants a fully digital customer journey, right? No break, everything digital. So you can, I'll send a photograph of mine using my mobile phone. I'll scan my whatever things they're asking, and then you convert it into whatever data. So how do we convert like a scanned thing into some kind of a data, right? Then platforms. Everything that I'm thinking of, my loan information, granting a loan, keeping a track of how the loan payments are happening, is somebody paying on time or not, everything. So this kind of a platform, can we develop a platform which can be integrated, which can be used for doing everything? So integration platforms, all these things are becoming like very, very important thing. In the end, I'd like to talk about, there's a lot we can keep on talking, but what I like to talk about is, in the benefit of time, these are the ML problems which are waiting to be solved. Like example, information extracted from uploaded image. Now you may say this is a trivial problem. It is not. Still, like this is being solved. But if this is solved, this will mean a lot to fintechs, right? I mean, it will be a game changer. Now, the second thing is like, can we even monitor the devices from which you are applying? And we can get a lot of information on even the device that you have been using. So we know, is it a new mobile that you have taken, or you have been using it for a long time? What is the value of that? Or when did you purchase it? That the kind of data pack that you are using, how long have you been using it? If you have been using these things for a long time as a customer, it gives me a lot of confidence. But if it is not, then what happens is it may be a risky kind of a take there, right? Then voice, just from voice, can I detect? So if I talk to my customer and from that discussion, can I detect that there is a chance of fraud or default there, right? SMSs, we are reading SMSs and they tell a very important story. Believe me, I can understand everything that I want just through a SMS, right? So